Well, my prediction last night has come true. Um, the big insidious plot by the local establishment to replace local senator, state senator George Gaynor, with Jay Trumbull, the current state representative. And I confirmed it. As a matter of fact, Representative Jay Trumbull himself was kind enough to text me and let me know that, yes, indeed, he is filing today to run for the Senate seat. All right. So, and I thanked Jay Trumbull for contacting me directly. Most people don't. And for that, I give Jay Trumbull credit. Now, this has been planned for a long time. Okay. This is George Gaynor, his third term as state senator. He represents our area, Washington County. Let's see. I think it's like 4 counties that he represents in the state Senate. There are 40 state senators, and this is his third term. Well, the primary is in August. Qualifying to run as a candidate ends in 2 weeks. So I've been told to keep my eye out for this maneuver that the local establishment, the William Harrisons, all the local kingmakers are going to do, the St. Joe Company, all the usual suspects. They had a plan, right? George, wake up. George Gaynor. You're going to hear him in a minute. I'm going to play the clip from last night when George said, "It's just time. That's all. It's just time." What do you mean it's just time? Well, they told me to retire now. No, George, don't say it. You'll see the clip. So George Gaynor was told, you resign 2 weeks before qualifying. That way nobody can run against Jay and beat him in the primary. Right? Jay terms out. Jay Trumbull, young Jay Trumbull, here he is. Here's Jay Trumbull. Jay Trumbull, whose campaign manager is, of course, the political consultant and dumpster diver, Arthur Cullen. He's always the campaign manager for the establishment people. He's a scumbag. I mean, let's just be honest. He used to have a fake account until we caught him, called Alex Cantone on Facebook. And Alex Cantone, Arthur Cullen, would say the nastiest stuff about people and then talk to himself. He would post his Alex Cantone, and then Arthur Cullen would talk to himself like he had fake accounts. He sells fake accounts, this guy. And that's Jay Trumbull. They all have the same campaign manager. Watch Trumbull contact me and say, he's not my campaign manager. Well, he was the first time. And he's Griff's campaign. He's everybody's campaign manager. Anyway, so you guys are connected at the hip as far as I'm concerned. There's Jay Trumbull. He just finished his 8 years in the House, believe it or not. Look at him. He look good for 22. I'm just kidding. Just joking, Jay. I think Jay's about 32 at this point, something like that. So anyway, there's Jay Trumbull. Nice guy, but in the pocket. That's Jay Trumbull. He just finished. They want him in the Senate. They can count on Jay. Okay? St. Joe, the establishment. Now, Jay Trumbull has a $1.5 million political action committee, a PAC called Panhandle Prosperity, young Jay Trumbull. Now, it wasn't funded by anybody in the Panhandle. Jay Trumbull has a political action committee that will fund his campaign, funded by Disney, funded by trial lawyers from Miami. Yeah, it's a political action committee. So understand, if you vote for Jay Trumbull, you're voting for woke Disney. He'll never talk bad about woke Disney, ever. They fund him. You're not going to get you're not going to get constitutional carry. He voted for the red flag law. Jay Trumbull. When asked, was there any irregularities in the election in 2020, Jay Trumbull said nothing. He's a Jeb Bush guy. He's got pictures with Trump because it comes in handy when you run for office, evidently. But no comment on that. Everything looks good. If there were rigged elections in Florida, you're not going to get Jay Trumbull to stand up for you. Let's put it that way. When it came time to make a decision, get your vaccination or get fired. Jay Trumbull came to his community, to the people who were being laid off from their jobs, fired from their jobs because they didn't want a forced vaccination. Jay Trumbull came and said nothing. Nothing. All of the people who pleaded to their state representative to speak out for them was AWOL. You're not going to get it from Jay Trumbull. But the establishment wants him. They know they can get their big money, their grants, and so on and so forth with Jay. So their plan was, George, you retire so we can slide Jay in there. There's only 2 weeks for anybody to run against him in the primary. Nobody's going to be able to raise money against his PAC, Political Action Committee, funded by Disney and trial lawyers in Miami. Oh, my. Hey, do you want to see George Gaynor last night? He was on WMBB, exclusive interview. Now, understand, WMBB is in the tank with these guys. They are on the take. Amy Hoyt works there, the nicest lady in local news, and she did a pretty good interview, actually. And she usually does, by the way. But WMBB, here's what I expect. My prediction yesterday already came true. My prediction is there's going to be a WMBB story on Jay Trumbull leaving the House and going to the Senate to represent you in the Florida Senate. It's going to be a big fluff PR piece. Watch, count on it. Here's what I said last night, by the way. Last night, I posted shady, George Gaynor retires as state senator just 2 weeks before the primary qualifying period ends. The primary election is in August and the general election is in November. My prediction 13 hours ago. State Representative Jay Trumbull, who terms out this year, will leverage his $1.5 million Political Action Committee, Panhandle Prosperity, to run for the vacated state Senate seat. Trumbull's PAC is funded by Disney and trial lawyers from South Florida. Nobody will have time to mount a campaign against Trumbull to replace Gaynor in the Florida Senate. This is an insidious plot by Disney, red flaggers, and corporate cronies. It cannot stand. Somebody's got to run against this guy, and somebody's got to beat this guy. But you know, who could possibly do that? I mean, who could do that at this point and win? Do you know anybody who could? Somebody's got to. Anyway, so I promised I would let you see George Gaynor last night. Hey, George, the timing seems suspicious. You retired to see if he retired in 3 weeks, then there would be a different process, right? I think the governor would have to appoint somebody and there'd have to be a special election, something like that. But Gaynor retires just 2 weeks before the end of the qualifying period. Well, hell, that's pretty slick. I've been hearing about this for a while. Here's what George Gaynor said, though, last night when asked about the timing.
But it was just time. I need to spend a little time with my family and with my friends and stuff that I enjoy doing. And there are a lot of very qualified, good people out there in the 2nd District that can run and would make excellent senators if they could afford to.
What he meant by if they can afford to is I think the state Senate only pays like $26,000 a year, but you only basically spend 3 months there a year, right? But, you know, I mean, it takes more time than that. It's not a high-paying gig, and it shouldn't be, but there are problems with that too, aren't there? By having it only as a $26,000 job, you pretty much have to be financially independent to have that job or retired. Right? So there's that. But then on the other hand, we don't want to make it so appealing that it's like the U.S. Congress, where they start out at $175,000 a year, you know, kind of like you make. And that doesn't even touch all the benefits they get. You don't want that either, right? There's probably some sweet spot somewhere. But That's what Gaynor meant by that. No, it's just time, says George. It's just time to go spend time with the family, just 2 weeks before the end of the qualifying period. This is really dirty, dirty. Jay Trumbull and George lied. George, you're lying. You're lying. And you know you're lying because I already know about the conversations you had with Jay Trumbull and William Harrison and all those guys, all the kingmakers. Watch George lie one more time. George is a nice old guy. I hope he feels better because his back's hurting him, and I mean this. But George, come on, man. You're lying right here.
But it was just time. I need to spend a little time with my family and with my friends and stuff that I enjoy doing. And there are a lot of very qualified, good people out there in the second district that can run and would make excellent senators if they could afford to.
Well, Jay Trumbull can afford to because his daddy owns Culligan Water. Yes, you know, George, you knew the whole time. You're not being honest. You're outright lying. Now, last time I talked like this, I got fired. Did you know that? It was 2014, and I was big stuff on the radio. Hey, who remembers this? Who remembers this? Does anybody remember the radio show? I had syndicated throughout Florida. See, look at this. Florida's Voice of Freedom. Do I look the same? 2000, this was 2011, I believe. I went from hero to zero. You know why? Because they wanted me to cover for these guys. Jay Trumbull ran in 2014 as a 24-year-old who didn't know anything about anything, but his father, Jay Trumbull Sr., and William Harrison, and all of the establishment said, if we can get Jay in there, we can get anything we want. And it's been 8 years since. Now they want to get Jay Trumbull into the Florida Senate. Here's Jay Trumbull again. Arthur Cullen was his campaign manager the first time around. He's usually the campaign manager for all the establishment people. He used to have a fake account called Alex Cantone. He's a dumpster diver and a political operative. And anybody that he's the campaign manager for, you just automatically ought to vote for the other guy. Am I right or wrong? So back then, I had mentioned, I'd go on the radio and I'd say, Jay Trumbull's not the right guy to vote for. And the radio station, despite having the number one show, the radio station said, Bernie, you can't say that. I said, but it's the truth. Well, if you do, the local establishment's going to pressure the radio station to fire you. And they did. And they thought that I would go away. Only I didn't go away. I put up a big billboard that said fired, find out why. And they didn't realize that I would continue to do what I do. As a matter of fact, the Washington Times, not the Washington Post, not Amazon, not Bezos's rag, but the Washington Times back in 2017 actually wrote a really nice story about how I took a stand and was willing to lose my job and go out on my own. To tell you the truth, it was really nice. If you ever want to look it up, Washington Times, Bernie Thompson, an unsung hero of the Air Force. They say that because I used to be an Air Force captain. So anyway, that's the story. It is confirmed because Jay Trumbull was nice enough and man enough, knowing that I would be critical, to send me a text directly this morning and say, yes, it's true. You were right in your prediction last night. I am running. And so I can confirm that. George Gaynor retires as state senator just 2 weeks before the primary qualifying period ends. The primary election is in August. The general election is in November. My prediction 13 hours ago, State Rep Jay Trumbull, who terms out this year, will leverage his $1.5 million PAC, Political Action Committee, Panhandle Prosperity, to run for the vacated state Senate seat. Trumbull's PAC is funded by Disney and trial lawyers from South Florida. Nobody will have time to mount a campaign against Trumbull to replace Gaynor in the Florida Senate. This is an insidious plot by Disney, red flaggers, and corporate cronies, and it cannot stand. Now, I do know there is a Republican candidate right now, and forgive me for not knowing her name off the top of my head. I'm looking here. Yes, it looks like you've already, Regina Piazza. Okay, so it looks like you guys have already covered that. Thank you for putting that in there. So Trumbull does have an opponent in the primary, okay? You know how that goes. He's got the name recognition. He's got a $1.5 million political action committee funded by Disney. They'll post pictures of him and Trump, even though he's not he's a Jeb Bush guy, not a Trump guy at all. But, you know, he wants to trick you. They're very much into tricking people. But this is all happening, and I wanted you to know about it. I'll look through your comments, and I'm going to stay on this story and the coming Lynn Haven ruling by the federal judge, whether or not former mayor and developer Margo Anderson and James Finch, whether the federal judge Mark Walker will dismiss the case, which I think he will, and I think it's proper from what I've seen. And there may be something I haven't seen. And if there is, you know, I'll tell you, and I'll follow the evidence. But right now, I think he'll dismiss the case, and I think it's proper. If it goes to trial and it turns out to be something I didn't see or didn't know, you're gonna learn it with me, because I will tell you the truth. I don't give a damn if I'm not on magazines anymore. I don't give a damn if Governor Scott at the time doesn't invite me to the governor's mansion for dinner anymore. I don't give a damn. It used to be right there, but I moved it. If Senator Don Gates, the president of the Senate at the time, doesn't send me Christmas presents anymore, I will not lie to you about this stuff. Public trust is too important to me. Oh, Bernie, you're such a saint. No, I'm not. I've lied. I lie sometimes. Right? Private life, sometimes lie. Not a perfect guy. Pretty flawed dude, actually. But I will not lie to you when it comes to the public trust. You can fire me. You can sue me. They have twice for defamation. Won both of them. Embarrassed the ever living out of them, because you don't want to sue somebody for defamation and then go on video under oath and have to tell the truth and have it put on YouTube, which is exactly what will happen. Oh, the truth will have its day. And today, the truth is that Jay Trumbull and George Gaynor and their big kingmakers, they've had this all planned out. They think 2 weeks is not enough time. It's really ugly. It's really ugly. And it guarantees that corporate cronies will be represented in this area. You won't. I'm a little angry about it, to be honest with you. Hey, if you want to support my efforts, I survive walking this tightrope with no net from crowdfunding and sponsors. You can become a patron to support my work at patreon.com/Bernie Thompson, patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. As little as $5 a month. It's kind of like a tip. It's anonymous even. Nobody knows you're doing it. It's easy, and you can quit at any time. Patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. Also, I want to thank Americans for Prosperity, AFP Florida, who is giving people an opportunity to volunteer with a great organization advancing freedom. Americans for Prosperity is the largest grassroots organization advancing policies that help people improve their lives. AFP Florida seeks to end corporate welfare, expand energy options, and reform education and healthcare by giving people more choices. Sign up today and volunteer at americansforprosperity.org. All right, a lot more to follow on this story because I'm going to stay on it very, very closely until, well, there's a few things that I'll be following closely. We got a lot of stuff happening right now. And I'll be popping in, popping out. I'll be doing the show at night as well to keep you informed. I also want to thank the Unknown Patriot for sponsoring the show. And I will see you very soon. I'll be back with another update as soon as I have something for you.